Let us now introduce our speaker for today's webinar, Ms. Elaine C. Villanueva. So, Ms. Elaine is a senior lecturer at the Faculty of Education, University of the Philippines, Open University. She is a former senior science research specialist of the Institute of Biological Sciences. She worked for the Conserve Kaigangan program under the Career Incentive Program of the Science Education Institute, the same government institution that also awarded her undergraduate and graduate scholarship. She completed her Bachelor of Science in Biology at the University of the Philippines, Manila, and finished her Master of Science in Environmental Science in UPLB. Her research interests include environmental biology and conservation of Philippine flora. Everyone, let us listen to Miss Elaine's talk regarding the biodiversity of Kaigangan Forest in Samar.
Good morning, everyone. I am Elaine Villanueva, former research staff of Conserve Kaigangan, and I would like to present you this webinar entitled Biodiversity of Forest over Limestone Ecosystems in Samar Island Natural Park.
To begin, let's quickly go down to the history that made SINP today. So, in 1996, by virtue of the Presidential Proclamation Number 744, SINP began as Samar Island Forest Reserve. Then in 1992, the National Integrated Protected Areas System, or the NIPAS Act, was established as a law. And in 2003, the former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo established SINP as a protected area to conserve and sustainably use its natural resources. So what are forests over limestone? Also known as karst forest or limestone forest, or in Samar dialect, kaigangan, forest over limestone is a forest formation type in tropical rainforest regions thriving along limestone hill areas. Samar Island has the largest limestone formation in the Philippines. We, as a research program, has this goal of assessing and conserving Kaigan biodiversity towards its sustainable management in Samar Island. We are also supporting the UN Sustainable Development Goals as our project components are contributing in their own ways to achieve the SDG targets. However, for this presentation, I will emphasize how our research program has been helping in meeting these two specific goals. So we have here the goal 15, or the life on land, which targets specifically for the conservation and sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems. And goal 11, wherein cities and communities, wherein we target to strengthen the efforts to protect and safeguard the world's cultural and natural heritage. So this presentation has the following objectives. First, to provide information on the outcomes of the plant and animal biodiversity assessment we conducted in SINP. Second, we describe the tree community structure in SINP. And lastly, we highlight the significance of the nomination of SINP as a UNESCO Natural World Heritage Site. So for the methodology, our study area is, of course, located in Samar Island, the easternmost chunk of island in the Visayas region. It is the third largest island in the country and has the largest area of limestone formation. Our assessment was conducted in two municipalities of Samar. We have Paranas in the province of Samar and Taft in the province of Eastern Samar. The broken lines you can see in the map show the boundary of SINP, which covers about a third of the island. Samar, in general, is classified as Type 2 under the Modified Coronas classification. Type 2 is characterized to show no dry season at all throughout the year. The figure you can see on the screen right now is called a climogram or a Walter diagram. These are graphical representations of the average monthly temperature and precipitation of a certain area over a 30-year period. On the x-axis, you will see the months of the year, And on the y-axis, we have here the temperature and the rainfall, blue line. So the temperature here is the red line. So we generated these graphs from the climate data we obtained from Pag-asa. And as you can see here, the locations indicated here are the nearest weather stations from our study area. Catbalogan Synoptic Station is the nearest weather station in Paranas, and Borongan Synoptic Station is the nearest one from Taft. And this graph is very useful in identifying the period of dry seasons in a certain area. It is also helpful in characterizing the climate of a certain area. And the period is considered dry if the precipitation line or the blue line falls below the temperature line. So in this case, there is indeed no dry season throughout the year in summer. For the faunal assessment, the methods were adopted and modified from the Manual on Biodiversity Assessment and Monitoring System for Terrestrial Ecosystems by Cruz et al. So the images you can see here on the left are some of our trapping methods. So we have here the pit pulp trap for amphibians and small lizards. We have here the cage trap for non-volant mammals and camera traps. Also, we use hand capturing and the use of forceps and snake to hook and tongs for herpetofauna and bees nets for birds and volant mammals. Aside from that, we also collected secondary data and ethnobiological accounts to complete the inventory in Paranas and Taft. For the floral assessment, we did quadrat per plot method for the assessment of trees. So this on the left, you can see here the diagrammatic illustration of our assessment for plants. So these are measured 20 meters by 20 meters. And for the understories, we laid line transects within these plots. And these lines, line transects are 5 meters in length with 1 meter interval. Aside from that, we also collected secondary data for the review in relation to species occurrence and endemicity. Also, please note that we collected plant samples here, and they were processed as voucher specimens, which are deposited in the Plant Biology Division Herbarium in UPLE. The maps you're seeing here are the contour maps indicating the position and of the sampling plots in Paranas and Taft. And it is quite notable that the limestone terrain in SINP is quite rugged, making it challenging for the project team to conduct fieldwork around that time. So it was conducted last October 2019. And these plots were selected based on the biophysical characteristics of the area, including heterogeneity of biodiversity, topographic attributes, and the presence of anthropogenic disturbances in the area. So let's now proceed to the results of the funnel assessment. And just to warn you, we will show images of wild animals in the next slide, such as lizards, snakes, bats, and etc. Just a warning. For the funnel inventory summary, we collected a total of 106 vertebrate species in Paranas, Samar, composed of 4 amphibians, 9 reptiles, 84 birds, and 9 mammal species, with an overall endemicity of 67%. Whereas in Taft, Eastern Samar, we inventoried a total of 112 species composed of 5 amphibians, 8 reptiles, 8 birds, and 12 mammals, with an overall endemicity of 67.86%. So these numbers are based on our fieldwork data and the review of published literature in Paranas and Taft. For the amphibians, so here are some of the notable fauna in Paranas and Taft. We have here Pulcrana grandicola, or the Mindanao striped scream frog, and then we have here 3 species of Platymantis, Platymantis guenteri, Platymantis rabori, and Platymantis bayani. Note that these 3 species are endemic to Mindanao Pleistocene Aggregate Island Complex, or Mindanao Pike. Also, Platymantis bayani is also, we also found it as a new locality record in Paranas. And moreover, please note that Platymantis rabori and bayani are listed as vulnerable under the BAO 2019-09. For the reptiles, we have here some of the notable species such as Tropidolemus subannulatus or the killed green pit viper. And then we have here the Lycodon dumerili or the Dumeril's Asian wolf snake. And then the Draco or Natus or the white spotted flying lizard and the Eutropis multicarinata. And then please note that the pit viper and Varanus samarensis or the Samar monitor lizard are listed as other threatened species based on the DAO 2019-09. For the birds, we have here the southern rufous hornbill or the Buceros hydrocorax semigaliatus. We also have here the Rhipidura samarensis, the Pitas kiri subspecies celestis, and the Papiteron amethystinus or the amethyst brown dove. So please note that the species with yellow fonts here are endemic to Mindanao Bay. Also, I listed here some species that are threatened, such as the Pithecopaga jefferi or the Philippine eagle, and that's it. Papiteron amethystinus or the amethyst brown dove, the Pitas kiri, we are listed as critically endangered, vulnerable, and as well as the one here, the hornbill, is listed as vulnerable. For the volant mammals, the images you can see here are fruit bats. We have here the Tenochirus gregori or the greater musky fruit bat, and then we have here the Tenochirus minor or the lesser musky fruit bat, and the Macroglossus minimus or the dagger-toothed long-nosed fruit bat. And please note that the lesser musky fruit bat here is endemic to Mindanao Bay region.
Here are some of the notable species for non-volant mammals. So, not included in the photo, we have here the Tarsius syricta or the Philippine tarsier and the Sus philippensis or the Philippine warty pig. Note that the Philippine tarsier is listed as near threatened, while the Philippine warty pig is listed as vulnerable under the IUCN. We also have here in the images the Philippine flying lemur or the Syncocephalus volans. And then we have here the Paradoxurus philippinensis or the common palm civet. And we also have here the Bulimus bagobus or the bagobo rat and the Ratus evereti or the Philippine forest rat. Bulimus bagobus or the bagobo rat here is a species endemic to Mindanao Bay.
So on the next slides, I will show to you the results of the floral assessment, which come from our fieldwork data and of course from our secondary data that we collected. We have here the floristic summary for Paranas summer. We recorded a total of 99 species composed of 63 genera and 44 families. Whereas in fact, Eastern Samar, we inventoried a total of 30 species represented by 22 genera and 18 families. For the flora in Paranas, we had this breakdown of 72 angiosperm species, 11 pteridophyte species, and 1 lycophyte species. Among these, 38 are Philippine endemics, while 18 are non-endemic species. Also, in terms of species representation, the palm family or Arecaceae has the highest number of species with 11. And then we have here Euphorbiaceae and Dipterocarpaceae, each with 5 species each. For the taft flora, we have here a breakdown of 18 angiosperms, 1 gymnosperm, and 4 pteridophyte species. Among these, 5 are Philippine endemics, and as per species representation, we have here 4 families that are made up of 2 species each, We have here the Aracii, Euphorbiaceae, Pandanaceae, and Sapotaceae. So here, you can see here the images of some of our notable plants. We have here the Tectaria calcarea, labeled as letter A. This is a fern species. And then we have here Artocarpus rubrovineus, and then that's letter B. And then we have here Hansea wenzelliana, marked as letter C. Together, these three are recorded as new island records in Paranas. Also, we included here two pictures of plants here. We have Walaceodendron celebicum, or locally known as banuyo. The wood of this plant is commonly used in furniture making. Also, the last but not the least, here in this set of images on the slides, we have here Aquilaria cuminiana. The common name of this plant is lapnisan, and this is a highly economically valuable plant, and it is a source of agar wood, which is a highly prized resin with multiple uses. Also, I'd like to emphasize here that these two species on the right, the baluyo and lapnisan, are classified as vulnerable species under the DAO 2017-11 and IUCN. So the graph you can see right now is a good figure that compares the three structures in Paranas and TAC. So on the x-axis, you will see here the names of the plots in Paranas and TAC, while the y-axis provides the different measures of species diversity. In terms of the number of tree species, the plots in Paranas have higher numbers of trees than TAC, and while in the terms of the number of tree individuals, though it's quite not obvious in this graph, the plots in TAC actually have higher values, although by a slim margin. Also, it is quite remarkable here that in terms of the diversity indices, so we have here the Simpson 1 minus D, the Shannon index, and the Fisher's alpha. So Paranas generally have the higher values of diversity indices per plot. Here is another figure showing a dendrogram, which is an output of the cluster analysis. So why are we doing cluster analysis? So it is a useful tool, a multivariate analysis to classify the plant communities according to the similarities of the species. So what we did here was at first to create a species plot table, and then we used that data to a statistical software to run the analysis or the cluster analysis. For this, we use paleontological statistics for the hierarchical cluster analysis using the UPGMA algorithm and the Sorensen index as a measure of similarity. So we identified three communities based on this cluster analysis. The rightmost cluster is the cluster 1, which is formed at approximately 0.55 index of similarity, which is composed of 3 plots from TAC. Also, the next cluster is a large one, composed of 10 plots, composed mostly of plots from TAC. Lastly, we have here cluster 3. I labeled this one as cluster 3, and this is another cluster composed. It's a mixture of plots from Paranas, although mostly are from Paranas, and we have here one plot from TAC. The table here provides information on what's inside these three clusters identified. The dominant species here were identified using dominance analysis by Osawa. And on the first rows here, 2 rows, you can see here the dominant species based on the relative basal area and the relative density. Some few observations here. We have here cluster 1 and cluster 3. The both ends of the column here have multiple codominant species, while cluster 2, despite having the highest number of plots, have only 3 codominating species. Cluster 2 is consistently dominated by Sharea negrosensis, Yakal, and Hathea wenzelliana. Also, the diameter at breast height or the DBH values generally are so small, but the trees are densely packed in the plant. Also, Paranas has higher diversity, but Taft has a higher number of individuals. It is also noteworthy that the DBH, the mean, and the maximum values of cluster 2 are higher. And this results compared to a similar analysis in subtropical karst in China. Samar has higher DPH values and denser tree composition. And what we can see here is that in terms of composition and structure, forest over limestone in Samar is quite unique, which has been influenced by its unique terrain and environment. This is the last part of the presentation where we now show you how Samar Island Natural Park is worthy of its nomination as a UNESCO World Natural Heritage Site. An area can be identified as a World Heritage Site if it possesses an outstanding universal value. That is according to the UNESCO World Natural Heritage Convention, which defined outstanding universal value as cultural and/or natural significance which is so exceptional as to transcend national boundaries and to be of common importance for the present and future generations of all humanity. In the succeeding slides, I will show you the natural and cultural significance of SINP. I previously showed you the diversity of the SINP Kaigangan based on the results of our assessment. Aside from that, there are a lot of publications and references about the Samar biota that have proven the biological significance of Samar. Thus, Samar Island is listed as a key biodiversity area, or KBA. KBA is a site that contributes significantly to the global persistence of biodiversity, and it is a critical area that has been a home to critical populations of threatened species. Aside from that quite long list of references, the program has contributed to the body of knowledge by sharing the results of our research through publications. So these publications are also important to as important evidence to strengthen the nomination of SINP. I will share the links of these articles on the comments later in case you wanted to read and check this out. Next, to see its cultural significance, let's try to look at the human systems involved in SINP. We will also see how these human systems are deeply integrated with the forest over limestone of Samar. Let's begin with this unique ecosystem service provided by the landscape, which is the sustainable livelihood through ecotourism. First, we have the SINP Ecolodge in Paranas, which has been managed by the SINP family. Also, we have the Paranas Eco Trail and Birding Site, which has been managed by the People's Organization in Samar.
One remarkable cultural significance of SINP is the mat weaving in Samar. The women of Pasay, Samar have been using the leaves of tikog to create beautiful patterns of mat or banig. These groups of women prefer to perform weaving in Saob Cave, which is also located in SINP. According to Escoda, this practice has been existing ever since the Spanish occupation. And up to this day, this tradition continues and serves as a source of livelihood among the women of Pasay. Lastly, our program has been helping the local communities through community-based conservation in SINP. These community-based conservation activities of Conserve Kaigangan were organized in partnership with Samar State University and BOSIS, a PO based in San Isidro, Paranas. We had established a plant nursery for the ex situ conservation of the native trees in Samar.
In conclusion, the biodiversity assessment in SINP showed the diverse fauna and flora of the Kaigangan ecosystem. Threatened and endemic species, as well as the new species records, should be prioritized in the local and national conservation efforts of various institutions working collaboratively. Second point, the analysis of the vegetation of SINP display three clusters of three communities. The structural features exhibited by these communities are distinctive in Samar forests over limestone. And the last point here, SINP indeed has its natural and cultural significance which makes it worthy of its nomination as a UNESCO World Natural Heritage Site. Culture and nature should be seen as woven or integrated systems that are both crucial in the conservation and sustainable use of Kaigangan landscape. That's all, and thank you so much for listening.